The US military struggle against Iran is now triggering fresh fears in Washington over how America would perform in a future conflict with China. Days after talks between Donald Trump and Xi Jinping, a top US Marine general has sounded the alarm over China's growing military power. A senior US military official now warns that Xi's armed forces can rival America across nearly every domain of modern warfare. Military experts are now openly questioning how the US would handle a confrontation with China after the heavy costs and challenges seen during the Iran conflict. A top US military warning has emerged just days after Donald Trump praised his recent talks with Chinese President Xi Jinping. A senior US Marine Corps general has now warned that China should be viewed as America's military equal. Lieutenant General Stephen Sklenka said China can no longer be described merely as a near-peer rival to the United States. Speaking at the Modern Day Marine Expo in Washington, Sklenka declared that Beijing now rivals Washington across nearly every major area of power. The Marine general also warned that any future war with China would make the Iran conflict pale by comparison. According to Sklenka, even Iran, despite being a mid-tier power, managed to inflict significant military pain on the United States and its allies. Sklenka further warned that China's shipbuilding capacity is now reportedly 230 times larger than that of the United States. The general also claimed Beijing has rapidly expanded its ballistic missile arsenal and nuclear submarine production capabilities. The warning comes just days after Trump publicly hailed his discussions with Xi Jinping as productive and successful. Lieutenant General Stephen Sklenka said, and I quote, "The Chinese leader's vision is to upend the international structure and supplant us as the global leaders. And in many ways, it's been Xi's thinking, his vision that has helped my own thinking about the demands of modern warfare, particularly when waged in the Pacific and particularly waged against a peer adversary, something that's new to all of us. We're about 2 months into combat operations with epic fury. We've got service members who have tragically been wounded and killed by Iran. They've launched hundreds of drones and ballistic missiles at our bases and our allies throughout the region. Israel, Saudi Arabia, Qatar, Kuwait, Jordan, reinforcing the point that the bases that we have, they're no longer administrative garrison sanctuaries. We really need to start looking at our bases as warfighting formations, just as critical of a warfighting formation as our divisions, wings, and MEUs. Their nuclear stockpile is the fastest growing in the world. They're pursuing innovative, intelligentized warfare tactics. They're using artificial intelligence, drone swarms, exploring the cognitive and innovative domains to achieve their dominance. They're building a military design to dominate the Pacific, and I believe ultimately beyond the Pacific. None of us in uniform today have ever had to operate in a world where a legitimate peer simultaneously contests us in every single domain. We are talking terrestrially and non-terrestrially, kinetically and non-kinetically. We're going to have to fight to get to that fight, and we're going to have to embrace these challenges and not operate under the auspices of how we did in the 80s and 90s. History is proven, and our current operations are confirmed, that the society that can project and sustain power and sustain their forces most effectively, ultimately, they prevail, unquote. A top US Marine general has warned that any future war with China may not begin with missiles, fighter jets, or conventional battlefield attacks. Lieutenant General Stephen Sklenka said the opening strikes could instead target American military bases through cyber warfare and other non-kinetic attacks. Sklenka warned that the Pentagon must urgently strengthen base defenses before any confrontation with Beijing erupts. The Marine general specifically called for hardened infrastructure, resilient power grids, and stronger counter-drone systems across US military installations. His remarks come amid growing fears in Washington that China's military buildup has reached a level capable of directly challenging the United States. Sklenka also claimed Chinese President Xi Jinping has effectively placed China on a wartime footing backed by massive industrial output. The warning adds fresh urgency to rising US-China tensions even after President Donald Trump described his recent talks with Xi as successful. The US Navy submarine fleet is under growing strain as nearly 40% of attack submarines now sit out of action tied up in ports, leaving commanders with fewer deployable boats to meet global commitments. At least 18 of the Navy's 49 attack submarines currently remain in port awaiting repairs, a backlog that has squeezed operational schedules and reduced the force's ability to surge when crises arise. That maintenance crisis unfolds as some of President Trump's advisors privately warn that a summit with Xi Jinping could increase the strategic risk to Taiwan over the next 5 years, injecting political urgency into readiness debates. An Axios report claims internal U.S. assessments now see a higher possibility of increased Chinese military movement, a development that would magnify the consequences of any shortfalls in undersea capability. Chronic dry dock shortages, persistent labor gaps, and fractured supply chains have pushed the U.S. submarine force into what looks like a long-term operational freeze, with repairs and overhaul stuck in multi-year queues. The planned overhaul of USS Boise was cancelled after roughly $800 million had been spent and less than 25% of the work was completed, a costly example of schedule slips and program mismanagement. USS Connecticut, the Seawolf-class submarine that struck an uncharted seamount in 2021, remains in dry dock undergoing extensive repairs, underscoring how single incidents can tie up high-value assets for years. The Seawolf class still stands as the most expensive attack submarine program in U.S. naval history, complicating decisions about maintenance, upgrades, and fleet composition. Each Seawolf class sub cost about $3 billion at the time of construction, a price tag that would translate to well over $10 billion in today's dollars after accounting for inflation and program escalation. The U.S. attack submarine fleet now numbers 49 boats, down from 62 in 2005, reflecting a long-term reduction in hulls available to sustain persistent undersea operations worldwide. A multi-billion-dollar maintenance logjam has effectively paralyzed America's submarine readiness and global posture, forcing planners to redistribute missions across fewer operational platforms. Virginia-class submarines have been hit hard, with repair cycles stretching 20 to 40% longer than scheduled and eroding the intended surge capacity of the newest attack boats. New submarine deliveries have been delayed by up to 30 months as public shipyards struggle under heavy overhaul loads, slowing fleet recapitalization and extending reliance on older hulls. Cost and efficiency gaps have forced the Navy to seek extra funding beyond original Block V estimates, signaling that procurement plans are straining under real-world industrial limits. USS Connecticut suffered severe bow and sonar damage after colliding with an uncharted seamount in 2021, damage that has required deep repairs and removed a high-value asset from operations. The collision's impact in the South China Sea forced the loss of Connecticut's sonar dome and raised urgent questions about undersea navigation and safety in contested waters.